Okay.
Looks nice.
That was a good start. Okay, let's begin. We need our guy with the phone. Where's our phone guy? Okay, we're gonna begin. We have a very interesting Gemara today, as usual. Not very different than all the other Gemaras, but it is interesting, of course. Okay. Yesterday, we discussed three different rabbis that did three different things. One of them said a blessing on every single cup. One of them said a blessing on the first cup and on the last cup. And one of them said only on the first cup and nothing else. We asked yesterday what was the reasoning behind it. Why did he only do it on one cup? We basically said because Rav himself says Yak Naha. There's actually a very interesting discussion between Rashi and Tosfos as far as what exactly Rav Ashi's attempted proof actually was. And then we basically said, hold on a second, there's a difference because one of them you took away your mind, you lost intention from drinking. You stopped intending to drink by one of them, and by the other one, you still intended to drink, and therefore, when you're still intending to drink, obviously you're not going to say another bracha. So that seems to be a done deal, resolved, finished, etc. Okay.
Black and white.
Black and white.
That's what they say. When something's written down, they call it black and white law.
Yeah,
That's tea.
but that's not. It's not. Yeah, but it's not that it's written down. It's that we've kind of concluded it. Huh? You're singing Michael Jackson in my Talmudic class? Come on, man. Huh? Good. Now the Gemara is going to go on to a new discussion. Okay? A little bit relevant to a previous discussion. We actually told you a story of Rava, right? We started out this week with Rav Yaakov, right? Rav Yaakov bar Abba was at the house of Rava. Now, although from the actual Talmudic, how should I say it, narrative, as we went from step to step, it sounds like we're still dealing with story number 2. Okay, we had story number 1 was with Rava. Story number 2, which was the group of these 3 rabbis that we spoke about a few minutes ago. So usually when you say story 1 and then you go to story 2, right? And then you say story 3, which is a continuation. What do you think it is? You think story 3 is a continuation of number 2. But that's only for normal people. For Talmudic scholars, you have to sometimes realize, no, we're going back to story number 1. Again, we're continuing story number 1 after finishing story number 2. And the only way for you actually to realize this when you're reading the Talmud is by seeing what's the story itself. What is it talking about? All right? That's the only way to see it. There's no way, I can't show you any keywords. I can't show you anything here that actually will show you like, okay, this is why it is. No, I can't do that. Right? You just literally have to look at the narrative. And of course, you could have help from Rashi and Tosfos, which both point out that this is going back to story number 1. Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was cheating a little bit and I was looking ahead.
Why is that cheating if you're learning
I
ahead?
don't know. But anyway, my question is, okay, you said it was a continuation, but there was nothing in the first story that hinted it was Shabbos.
Correct.
But
As a matter of fact, if you remember in Rashbam and Rashi, we said that the reason we knew it was Shabbos because of the continuation of the story that's there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how we knew it was Shabbos there.
Okay.
Is because of the continuation over here.
Okay, so
again, you have to put together the pieces. I've said this a lot of times. When you're learning Talmud, you have to realize it's not like Western literature. Western literature, they tell you to write the story as if the guy knows nothing, right? And you say every detail in order. In other words, you spoon feed the person the information in a way as if they're a baby. That's actually the way you're meant to do it according to Western way of writing, which might actually be an easier way of internalizing information. However, the Talmud definitely does not do that. The Talmud very often is expecting you to use your brains to figure out what exactly is going on, perhaps intentionally. Again, I'm not sure if it was intentional or that was just the way they wrote in those days, but it's possibly that the Talmud did this intentionally because it wanted to ensure that you kept your mind on the topic and you knew that you could never lose the pieces of the information. When you're dealing with the Western style way of thinking, because it's so easy, it's almost like what they say, and what my teacher said when we were growing up, they said in one ear and out the other, right? You're reading the page. By the time you read the end of the page, you don't need to know what's in the beginning of the page. You're finished, done. I don't need to know what's in the beginning of the page. I know what's the end of the page. So, right? So, but in the Talmud, if you don't remember what's in the beginning of the page, you won't be able to understand what's at the end of the page. And once you do this numerous times throughout the Talmud, it will actually train your mind to keep focus on all the details. So it could arguably be intentional. Again, I'm arguing that it's possible. I've never seen it written that they intentionally wrote the Gemara this way, but it is. It is written in a way where if you want to properly understand the Gemara, you have to hold on to the pieces of the details throughout the narrative, otherwise you're going to lose it.
It's like juggling. You got to keep the
you always have to when you're juggling, you not just you have to keep the balls in the air, but you always have to keep focus on all the balls, because if you lose focus on one ball, then the whole thing gets messed up, right? And that's kind of the way the Gemara does it. Is the Gemara forces you to constantly pay attention to each detail, because because later on we might reference the detail without even reminding you that we're referencing the detail, and we're just essentially trying to we're continuing, and if you remember the detail, you can go further, and if you don't, you can't. That's it.
Have you gained proficiency in doing that over the years, like where you're a better juggler?
I haven't become a better juggler through learning Talmud, no. But I think I think that my mind keeps focused on the details, and very often, if you look at true Talmudic scholars, people will say that their intellectual capabilities are superior to that of others. As a matter of fact, my father, just to tell you, my father was he was raised secular, and he went to secular schools all his life, right? And he was very good at it, right? He graduated like the best in high school, and he went to Caltech, which is a crazy scientific, geeky school, right? Perfect for my dad. It's a good school, right? Not easy to get in, but he got in. And then he was a professor in math, and he did a lot of things. Then listen to the story. Then he joined Chabad, so he joined the Hasidic movement, and he became involved. And he was an actuary most of his early life. And then in his mid-40s, he decided he wanted a career change, and he became a lawyer, right? So he had to go back to school. He went to law school in his 40s, and he's there with a bunch of young, he's 43, 44, I think, at the time. And he's basically hanging out with these 18, 19, 20-year-olds. I don't know, however they all, no, actually in 22, 23, 24, that age, right? And of course, it's in Brooklyn. It's called Brooklyn Law School, right? And he's in Brooklyn Law School, and he tells me that he sees the difference between the people who are educated in Talmud versus not. And again, you have to understand, he was not raised with the Talmud. He knew the Talmud eventually. But he said that he noticed that the religious people that were the Hasidic people, the people that were Orthodox Jews that were raised with the Talmud, he says they picked up the law like this. They were much quicker than the people who were educated even in some of the top secular schools. Why? Because there was something about the critical thinking logic that the Talmud somehow trains you how to critically think with or without your knowledge, meaning it forces you. If you want to understand the Talmud, you need critical thinking. You cannot understand the Talmud if you cannot use critical thinking. It just doesn't work. Okay? And Yaakov, I have a very strict rule in my class. No one puts their head down in my class. All right? You keep your head up and ready to go. Okay? What? You want the people on the line also to start putting their head down? No. You can keep our head up, straight, focused. That's it. If you want to understand the Talmud, you have to keep focused. I told you that. Anyways, okay. It doesn't make a difference if you're sleeping. Just, let's go. Anyways, we're continuing story number 1, which is a story of Rabba and Rav Yaakov. And it says as follows: Kimoto Lavduli, when it came to Havdalah, which is at the end of Shabbos, we make a blessing to ending the Sabbath. And it came to that point in time in the day. Kom Shamei v'adlik avuka. The Shamish, the servant, the person helping out in Rav's house, he stood up, and it says he lit a torch, mishraga, from a candle. So he had a candle, a little flame, and he specifically lit a torch, which means for whatever reason, he was not suffice with the single candle. He wanted to have a torch. Sham'ei is his shamish. A at the end means his in Aramaic. Right, because that's what they say. Sham'ei would be his shamish. Correct, but very often when you turn it into a different word, one letter drops out. Right? Maybe we should send you to we have somebody deep grammatical things. No, there's a lot. No, I'm serious. There's very often in Hebrew and also in ancient Aramaic, you would drop one letter of the word when you change the format of the word. Yeah. The A flies away. Yeah, good. All right.
Is his fire?
His servant. Shamei is his servant. Okay, so his servant, he got up and he lit a torch from a candle, right? Which means for some reason the candle wasn't good enough. He wanted to light a torch. Adlik isn't lit. He lit. What is a torch?
A regular.
So avuka really. In this context, it's kind of like a torch, or basically it's not a single candle, right? You have a shraga is like a single flame, like just like a candle has like a little single flame, and then you have a torch, right? As we know, when we do Havdalah, do we use a single flame? No, we use a multiple wick flame, because that is what we do for Havdalah. That seems to be what he's doing over here. And Yosef Zoyar, we don't use our phone. Unless you're telling me that you're watching me online while you're standing. No, you shouldn't do that, because you're here. You don't need to watch me on your phone. The person that's in, I don't know where, Australia, New Zealand, wherever these people are, right? Wherever, I'm not sure where they are. There's few of these people online. Wherever you are, you need to use your phone, because otherwise you can't join the class. But they're invited to Tzfas. They can come to Tzfas. You want to come to Tzfat and learn? If you're here live, you should learn live. And when you're learning live, you don't need to use your phone. You can see me without your phone. Right.
You're better looking online.
Good. I'm better looking online. That's thanks for the comment. Yes.
Misraga?
Huh?
Misraga?
From a candle or a flame, a single flame. A single flame. Yeah.
Raga?
Shraga. As a matter of fact, Shraga is a name. Shraga is a name. A lot of people have the name Shraga Feivel. Why Shraga Feivel? Because Shraga Feivel means like a fire, and Shraga means like a candle. Feivel is fire, like a little fire, like a Feivel. Feivel is a fire, yeah. Shraga Feivel.
Is Shammai torch?
No, Shammai is a servant.
Is what?
Servant. Abuka is the torch. Abuka is the torch. All right? Anyways, okay, let's get back to what we're saying. The servant of Rav lit a torch from a candle. Omar Lay, he says to him, I'm assuming we're talking about Rav Yaakov is saying to Rava. I'm assuming. I'm trying to see if it says it over here in one of the commentaries. Omar Lay Rabbi, yeah, that's what it says here in the Rashbam. Omar Lay Rabbi Yaakov bar Abel Rava. He says, Omar Lay, Lama lach kulahai. Why do you need to do this? Haman shraga. There's already a shraga. There's already a fire. If there's already a fire, why do you need to light a torch? What is the difference between a torch and a fire? What I mean by this is, why do you need a torch versus a single flame? Right? Why? You already have a fire. Now, what a lot of people may be missing in context is as follows. Yeah? On Saturday night, we make a bracha on the fire. And it seems that this is what we're talking about. We're talking about We're talking about lighting the fire for the blessing. Now, I'm sure Chaim is about to ask me, but aren't we supposed to use a torch for Havdalah? Isn't that what you're gonna? That's not what you're gonna ask me. Why not? Why aren't you gonna ask me that?
Because that's not what I was asking.
Oh, that's just you're saying it's just fact. It's just a factual thing.
Then I realized my question was going to be going on halakha that I already know, so I'm not going to ask the question.
Oh, so that's the reason why you shouldn't ask that question, right? You'd say, hold on a second, we are supposed to use a torch. So why is he asking why you use a torch?
A totally different question.
Yeah. What's your other question?
I was going to ask a question. Since he's lighting a candle from other candle, can we assume that it's Shabbos, Yom Tov after Shabbos?
Why would you say that?
Because
you're saying why would if not?
Because I was going by the halakha, which I already know. That's why I didn't ask the question, because I realized I was going by the halakha that you have to light the candle from a pre-existing.
Yeah, but the fact is that in the olden days, lighting a brand new candle was a bit difficult. Right?
Yes.
So if they had a candle, they'd light it anyways. They would light it anyways. It's not necessarily a evidence. It's not necessarily evidence to what you said. Correct. It's not necessarily evidence to that, and that's that. All right. To lighting a new fire from nothing, you'd have to take. You have to take. What's it called? You have to take Flintstones, and it could be a 10, 20-minute operation. So if you had a candle that was already lit, you lit from the other candle. I don't know. I never tried it. You ever tried lighting a fire from Flintstones?
Yeah, you have to set up right.
That's it. 1 second.
Yeah, but to light a candle, you light harder. How do you light just a wick?
Yeah, I hear.
You probably need a little fire and
whatever it is, the point is that Chaim wants to suggest that the very fact that that he's lighting the torch from a candle and not from scratch could be an indication that we're talking about Yom Tov. And I'm just saying it's not necessarily the case, because in the old days it was very common that you'd light a candle from another candle, or a fire from the next.
It begs the question, is that how they lit fire back in the day, when making a spark off of flint?
Well, no one's talking about sparks and flints. We're talking about the fact that he had a fire that was already lit. Since he had a fire that was already lit, right? He lit from the other fire. Not necessarily was he lighting from another fire because he couldn't light a new fire from scratch. Not necessarily. That's not necessarily the case. All right? Let's continue. We didn't get there yet. No, we didn't. Okay? So, Lamali Kulahai, why do you need to do all this? Meaning, why do you need to light a torch from a candle? Mancha shraga, mancha is it's placed, which means it's there. There's already a candle. Why do you need to do it? Omar Lei, Rava says back to him, Shama midaitid and afsheka ovid. He is basically doing his own thing, right? Meaning, as the Rashbam says, I did not tell him to do that. Yeah. So he's basically saying that there's no particular significance to the fact that he did that. Now, Chaim's going to have even a bigger question. What do you mean there's no significance? If there's one flame, you're supposed to have for up to 2 flames. Right? But it could be that Rava did not hold that way. It could be that Rava did not necessarily hold that you need 2 flames to make the blessing on the candle that we do on Saturday night. I just want to let you know that Saturday night, we don't necessarily need to do it on a multiple flame candle. You don't necessarily need to do it. We do try to do it. It's a custom, and there's reasons, as we're going to explain later in the Gamara, there actually are reasons why we use a multiple flame candle when we do Havdalah, okay? But this Gamara is part of that discussion on why we actually do that, okay? However, it's not absolutely necessary. As a matter of fact, those of you who know that on Yom Tov, that came from Shabbos, on a holiday that came right after Shabbos, meaning Saturday night began a holiday, right? And therefore we do the Yak Nahaz, as we learned last week. We do Yak Nahaz. When we do Yak Nahaz, do we have a multiple flame candle? No. We look at the candles that were lit for Yom Tov with our eyes, and we make the bracha. I didn't say the bracha. I said Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. But everybody's just so used to it. Yeah. Good. But everybody was so used to it, they said amen. Good. But yeah, we just look at the candle, which means you have to see the candle. You have to, when you make the blessing on the fire Saturday night, you have to see a burning candle. It doesn't necessarily need to be a torch. It doesn't need to be multiple wicks. It could be one wick candle. You could do it. However, as you know, tradition we have for more, and this Gemara is actually going to discuss a little bit about that tradition. So according to Rava, that was not necessary at all. He could have made the bracha on one candle. The servant, for whatever reason, decided he wants to do it that way. It has nothing specifically.
You don't know what's going on.
I do know what's going on. You put your head down. No putting your head down in the class. I'm going to be tough on you. I know you're going to get angry at me. Don't get angry at me.
You don't know what's going on. Let me be for a minute.
Huh?
Something medical.
Oh, okay. All right. Whatever you say.
I'm not just saying.
Oy vey. You're going to break all my rules. You see, you're going to put your head down in the class, and this guy's going to put his head down in the class, and then I'm going to have nothing to do. How about this? How about this? Yaakov, how about this? Instead of putting your head down, put it back like this on the wall. And then you see this? Your hoodie, cover your eyes with your hoodie. And you go to...
I'll put my fist there so your head goes.
No. Enough. Only me. I'm the enforcer over here. I don't want everybody to become the enforcer in my class here. All right.
Amar late.
Yeah. Amar late. Okay. Correct.
What's going on?
It's a discussion.
Amar lei I loy shmiale minei demar loy havi ovid. So Rav Yaakov bar Abba, he says, I'm not accepting your answer. Rava answers, listen, the servant's doing his own thing, meaning I didn't tell him to do that. He's just doing his own thing. Rav Yaakov said, bar Abba says, no, don't play these games with me. I know that servant doesn't do whatever he wants. He doesn't just randomly do things. He's only doing it either because you told him or perhaps because he saw that this was the way it was done somewhere else. There's no way that he's completely insignificant. It can't be. It can't be completely insignificant. Not happening. That's what he answers him. So again, Rava answers, the guy just did it that way. And he's answering back, I'm sorry, I don't buy that. So Amar Lei said back to him, Loi sover leimar avukol abdollah mivtza min amuvchor. Don't you too believe that making the blessing on a multiple flame fire is the best way of doing that mitzvah? Don't you too believe that? So this actually seems like it's Rava telling him back. First he said he's just doing it. I guess he didn't want to pick a fight. I guess by the very fact that Rav Yaakov bar Ada was asking the question, it seemed like he disagreed. And since it seemed like he disagreed, yeah.
But he's admitting that he's doing it for a reason now, because he's saying I'm doing
Correct.
it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If he's admitting afterwards that he's doing it for a reason, then why to begin with did he try to brush it off? Oh. So it seems like the very fact that Rav Yaakov bar Ada asked the question, the very fact that he asked the question made Rava think that he didn't hold that way. And since he didn't hold that way, Rava didn't want to pick a fight with him. He didn't want to embarrass him. He didn't want to make as if the guy is... But Rav Yaakov bar Ada was adamant. He says, hold on a second.
Yeah.
The servant's not doing something randomly. He's doing it for a reason. Yeah.
A good servant if he just went on half-baked with his stuff on his own.
Exactly. It wouldn't be a great servant if he just did something on his own without any other reason. Good. Where are we? Yeah, good. So that was it. That was the end of that particular discussion, but now we're continuing. We're still in the middle of the story. Pasach, he opened. He opened means like he started. That's another way to say he started. It was he opened up. Pasach, he opened up. Who opened up? At seemingly Rava. Pasach v'Amar, he said, Hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol. The one who differentiates between holy and mundane. between light and darkness. Ben Yisrael lo'amim, between Israel and the rest of the nations. Ben Yom Hashvi l'sheish me'amase, between the seventh day and the 6 days of action and work. So that was the blessing that he said. Now you think that Rava is going to get away with saying something without Rav Yaakov Bar Ada asking questions? Rav Yaakov Bar Ada seemed to have arrived at Rava's house as an auditor. He was literally auditing every single step that he was taking. Yeah, he was auditing him. So once again, he audits him. So Amar Lei, he said to him, Rav Yaakov Bar Ada says to Rava, Lama l'cha kulei hai. Why do you have to say all these blessings to God for differentiating between holy and mundane, light and darkness, Israel and the nations, the seventh day and the 6 days of the week, which means 4 separate blessings of separation between why does he have to add 4 different terminologies of separation? Why does he have to do that? Yeah. V'ha'omar, and he actually backs up his statement. He just doesn't say that. He says, V'ha'omar Rav Yehuda Omar Rav, says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, Hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol, by saying, blessed are you for differentiating between holy and mundane. Zoihi Havdalasi shel Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. This was Havdalah of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, which means Saturday night, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, he would just say, Baruch atah Hashem, maybe Elokeinu melech ha'olam, and Hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol. That's it. As a matter of fact, today, many people say Baruch Hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol, right? That's essentially what this is. Which means that if, by the way, we say Havdalah, the first Havdalah we say when? When do we say Havdalah, Yosef Zoya? The first Havdalah. We say Havdalah 2 times every Saturday night. During Ma'ariv, in the Shemona Esrei, we say Ata Choinan Tonu. Ata Choinan Tonu is an addition to the blessing of Ata Choinin La'odom Das. Yeah? Ken? Yeah? So once you say the blessing of Ata Choinan Tonu, you are essentially out of Shabbat. You blessed God for differentiating the Shabbat, and that's done. However, what happens if you forgot to say that? You're really not meant to do any malacha. You're not allowed to do any type of craft, which could include driving home in your car, could include turning on a light, could include turning on your phone. You're not allowed to do it until you bless God for differentiating from the Sabbath and from the rest of the week. And if you forgot to do it in Ata Choinan Tonu and you want to drive home to make Havdalah in your house, you actually have to do a form of Havdalah, and that is by saying Hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol, or Baruch Hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol, which is thanks the one that's separated from holy to mundane. Now, Rav Yaakov Bar Ada, he's seeing that Rav is making Havdalah, and he's saying 4 separate blessings of God differentiating between one thing and the other. And so Rav Yaakov Bar Ada says, hold on a second, why do you have to make 4 blessings? You only need to make 1 blessing. Right? Why are you saying all these? Right? Because this is what Rabbi Yehuda Anasi did. Omar Lei, he says back to him, Ano kehosvirali, I hold like this. I hold like what? We're about to tell you another opinion. And Rabbi Yaakov Bar Abba held like the other opinion, right? Ano kehosvirali, I hold like these ones. Like what? The Omar Rabbi Elazar, Omar Rebbe, Ishaya. Rabbi Elazar said in the name of Rabbi Yeshaya, Hapoiches, one who says less, lo yivchais megimel, should not say less than 3. V'hamoisif lo yosif al zayin, and one that wants to add should not add on 7. Now we're talking about blessing God for differentiating from one thing and the other. There are many things in this world that there are 2 different realities. There's light, there's darkness. There's a big differentiation between light and darkness, right? Yeah? Good. There's between holy and non-holy. There's between the nation of Israel and the rest of the nations of the world. There's something unique about Israel that is completely separate and different than the rest of the world. Right? For those of you who thinks that's racist, I'm sorry. Maybe it is racist. It could actually be racist. It could be a racist statement, but I want to remind everybody that who is the one that created different races? God. So God created different races, and guess what? He created different races different. I know the world can't stand God, or some people in the world can't stand God, and therefore they cannot come to terms with the fact that different ethnicities were created different. Now, the problem is that some people think that because I was created one way, and because a different ethnicity was created differently, therefore I'm better than them. Wrong. Right? You have to realize that God created every ethnicity with a particular purpose and a particular destiny, and with particular skills and talents, right, that are unique to that ethnicity, because that ethnicity has a unique mission, and therefore they were given unique qualities, right? And the same thing is with various different ethnicities. And we must embrace our differences instead of trying to equate and make everybody equal and the same, because unfortunately there's people that try to do that and they're messed up. It's the best way I could say it. Unfortunately, they're messed up because they don't want to face reality. They don't really. It's really an attack on God Himself, right? It's an attack on God, right? It's like some people are like, I think the world would be better if everybody's the same. God's like, no, I disagree with you, and they're like, okay, well, therefore I'll attack you and say that whatever you do, right? So racism is actually not evil in itself, right? Watch out! I don't know if somebody's watching me on YouTube. They're gonna, I don't know.
That's the definition of racism.
No,
Yeah,
again, racism is as a whole, which essentially means that there are different races in this world, and those different races are different, and they have differentiations between them, right? And they have uniquenesses, they have talents, and each one's different than the other because each one has a different purpose and a different destiny. That is a form of racism, right? It's saying that races are different, but the fact is that's true, they are different. Right? Now, does that mean that I can discriminate, God forbid, on a person that's because he's different? No, that's a separate story. That's why should I discriminate? If God created that person for a unique purpose, why should I persecute that person or put them down or harm them or mistreat them? On the contrary, I should appreciate them better. What do you mean? This person has a unique purpose. They have a reason for being, right? So I should appreciate them and embrace them for who they are, right? Instead of trying to say, oh, I have to be the same as you. No, I have to be different. But that's back to what we're saying is between Israel and the rest of the nations of the world. Israel has a uniqueness that is monumentally different than the rest of the world. It's a fact. And that's actually why anti-Semitism exists, by the way. Some people, anti-Semitism exists for one simple reason, is that people realize how dramatically different the nation of Israel is than the rest of humanity. Right? Now, people have two things they can do. They can either hate it or love it. They can either embrace it, just like racism. They can either hate it and say, oh, let's therefore say, oh, because the Jews, the nation of Israel is drastically different than everybody else, therefore let's hate them, let's push them away, let's persecute them, let's harm them. You can do that. Or you can say, hold on a second. Who made Israel dramatically different? God. And therefore, by serving God, you connect and you appreciate the fact that God made Israel different, and you actually bless God for making Israel uniquely different. And by embracing God's choice, whoever it is, whether they're Jewish or not Jewish. And I say Jewish because some Jews don't like the fact that they're dramatically different. They try to convince themselves that they're not dramatically different, but that's horrible. But that's for a Jew. But even for a non-Jew, right? By embracing the fact that Israel is dramatically different, that non-Jew is embracing God's choice, and therefore they will be blessed by embracing God's choice and appreciating God's choice. I don't know how we got into that, but
Well,
yeah. Huh?
that was juicy.
That was juicy. Can I know? Let's continue. Anyways, so yes, one of the blessings we do is for differentiating between the nation of Israel and the rest of the nations of the world. All right? Anyways, so Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yeshaya, he holds that you should say a minimum of 3 blessings for God's differentiation between one thing and another, and he says you shouldn't do more than 7. So Rav Yaakov Bar Ada, who's right now auditing Rava, he's auditing Rava and trying to make sure he gets every single detail. So you think he's over? He's not done yet. He's auditing him again. He's auditing again. Listen carefully. Amar Lei, Rav Yaakov Bar Ada says back to Rava, who said, oh, I hold like the opinion that says do a minimum of 3, a maximum of 7. So what does Rav Bar Ada say? He says, Master did not do 3 and did not do 7. Meaning, how many, if you count, how many blessings did he make? I actually counted it before. How many? 4. Now, if you're telling me you hold like him, so either do the minimum or do the maximum. What are you doing somewhere in the middle? You're just playing games here? Now, you'd say, yeah, he's just playing games. Because you are a Westerner who plays games, right? Yeah, we'll do it the way we want.
Or like, I like 5.
I like 5. I like the number 5. Good, I'll do 5. 5 because 5, 4, 3, right? It feels good. The number 5 feels good. Doesn't work like that, people. That's not the way it works. Okay? The rabbis, the great masters of the Talmudic era, everything they did was significant. So, if you did 3, you could say, okay, I'm doing the minimum. I don't want to do too many. Or you can do 7 and then say I'm doing the maximum. But if you do 4, well, why are you doing 4? Why don't you do 3? Right? You have to have a reason. And the Talmudic scholars had a reason for everything they did. So that's why Rav Yaakov Bar Ada is asking Rava, how come you're doing 4? Right? You're telling me that you should do a minimum of 3, maximum of 7. Well, why are you doing 4? Right? Meaning you're not doing either the minimum or the maximum. There's got to be a reason, a significance for your choice. And this is his next question. So we have a lot of questions. As you know, if you know on the papers that I gave out here, I highlighted Omar Lay. I think every Amar Lei I highlighted because you're going back and forth constantly, going back and forth between one person and the other. How many? What's that? So one of them is actually spelled out, and the other one's an acronym, and that's actually why it's chosen that way. I'm not sure. It could boil down to the printing press in those days. Very often when they formatted things, it wasn't like today where you just type it into the computer. In those days, you had to format things. Sometimes you had a line, and it looks like there was you wanted to squeeze a word in the line. There was no way to do it unless you made an acronym, and that's actually why acronyms exist in the Talmudic in the Talmud so much, because they basically use when there was a common saying, a common phrase that they felt everybody would know with an acronym, and they were stuck between two in a line. They wanted to cut it. I'm not sure. I've actually said this before. Reuven's going to say this is boring, but I'm sure you heard the saying "cut to the chase," right? The saying "cut to the chase." A lot of people don't know the original. Why do we say "cut to the chase"? Yosef Zoyer. Why do we say "cut to the chase"? I tell you, very good. So you were at a previous class where I explained this. Yeah. But you're still on your phone. I don't want you on your phone. Put down your phone. Cut to the chase. No, the word chase actually is the frame that they used to print in. A chase was like this frame, and they used to put individual letters into the chase, and then they used to turn it upside down and stamp it, or sometimes it was even whatever way. They used to basically stamp it into the paper. That's the way they used to. So cut to the chase means that when they had a line and it was a little too long, and they didn't want to put it to the next line because it would be really difficult, they would just cut a couple words, they would try to cut a couple words of the sentence if they could, or they would actually make acronyms like they did in the Talmudic times. This was a way to cut to the chase, right? So anybody that did not know what cut to the chase means, now you know it. Shmuel came to the lesson. He's like, listen, the Talmud, it's very nice, but I learned what cut to the chase is. Now it's worth the whole thing. It's worth the whole class because you learned the phrase. Can I know how to? Okay. Amalei. So again, Rava Bar Ada asks Rava why he's doing 4, not 3, and not 7. We need to understand the significance of 4 blessings. So Amalei, he says, Ibra Bein Yom Hashvi l'Sheish Me'amasei Me'en Chasimohi. The last blessing that he made between the 7 days of the week and the 7th day of the week and the 6 days of action of the week, the reason he said it was not because he needed to add another blessing, but because it is similar to the closing blessing. The closing blessing, which is Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'Chol, you're meant immediately before you do the closing blessing, you're meant to do a blessing that is similar to the closing blessing. Yeah, and he even brings a quote. V'amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, and Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Hamavdil, one that says Havdalot Tzarich Sheyomer Me'ena Chasima, Tzarich La Chasima. So you need to say something similar to the closing before you actually do the closing. Yeah? Yeah. Tomorrow we're going to discuss the last little bit over there. I don't want to get into it today, but that's basically where we're going to end today. We're going to have a bit of a different opinion tomorrow on something else, but that will be tomorrow. We will be here. Tomorrow's Wednesday, right? We should be here at 11 o'clock if I get here on time. Unfortunately, today I did not get here on time. That's why we started a little bit late. I'm sorry. But we should start tomorrow at 11 o'clock Israel time. Baruch Hashem. Any questions from the crowd over here? Yeah. Good. Anyone?
So where is that?
Yeah.
The thing you're saying about how all races are different, isn't there something in that in Masechet Shabbos where the guy comes to Shammai, Beis Shammai on Erev Shabbos, he says, why do these people have big foreheads?
So that was actually Beis Hillel, not Shammai, yeah.
Right? And
yeah.
Why do these people have big feet? And why did they say because these people walk on the sand and these people, I don't know.
So why, I don't get what you're asking.
Well, you're saying like all people are created differently. And I was just saying that kind of, you said like all races are created differently, but they have a reason that, and I was just saying that.
Right, so we have over there where he was discussing various difference of various races. We have actually somebody that asked an interesting question online, says they saw we stopped streaming on Facebook. We don't stream on Facebook anymore. It was a little bit too complicated, and that's it. If you want the class, we're doing YouTube only for now. If we have a sponsor, we had a what's it called? We have a streaming software that allowed us to stream to numerous things, but it costs a lot of money. It's actually not so much money. If somebody wants to sponsor it, it's $100 a month, and then we can have it back up on all the streaming ones, all the platforms. That's what it costs, and till then, we're only on YouTube. That's it. Anyways. By the way, Oleg, you're welcome to come to Tzfas. You're sponsored. He's sponsored. There you go. You hook up with each other, and this way you can. He's the producer. We can do it. Good. Anyways, any questions on what we learned? Let's do a quick summary of what we learned. We'll do a quick summary, and then we're going to go to self-study, etc. Good.
I have a question. Why is it so cold?
I can't. I don't know the answer. Oh, the cold, because we have our heater up there. Our heater up there is off, and that could be one reason why it's a bit chilly here. Usually have to turn on the machine to get the heat.
It's like, it could be me because I think I might be
it is a bit chilly. It's a bit chilly. All right, let's do a quick summary. We have a story that we began in the beginning of this week where Rav Ada bar Avo, if I'm not mistaken, was that his name? No, sorry, not Rabbi Yaakov bar Abba. Rabbi Yaakov bar Abba came to visit Rava, right? Now, if you can give an example of a pesky guest, that's what it sounds like. He's asking him questions. It sounds like he's a pesky guest, constantly challenging him, why are you doing this, why are you doing that? However, you have to realize in the Talmudic era, it was actually common where a superior or an inferior, a student who was inferior to a greater master who was superior, very often they used to specifically watch what they did. Okay, there's actually a famous story about a guy called Aristotle. Aristotle, you never heard of the guy?
No, I mean,
Aristotle, he's not Jewish, but Aristotle has a complete theory, idea of morality, etc. And I'm not sure what it was. I'm not sure what it was, but one time they caught Aristotle doing something that was completely contrary to his own ideology. And they asked Aristotle, they said, hold on a second, don't you believe that this is wrong? And Aristotle says, right now, I'm not Aristotle. Right now, that's it. When he's doing an action, I'm a private citizen. That's it. I'm my own guy. So, yeah, do as I say. Now listen. Why am I saying this? Because this is perhaps a secular way of looking at it, right? You'll have a scientist or a philosopher that will come out with a deep philosophy and they'll say, okay, well, that's my idea. Doesn't mean I need to follow my own idea. However, the Torah scholars, the Talmudic scholars were not like that. They were actually the exact opposite. They put their money where their mouth was. When they held something, when they believed something, they did it. And their actions were completely in line with their beliefs. And so much so that they had students who used to question them on their actions, and the rabbis felt that they were inclined to answer. And because, again, if a student saw their rabbi doing something contrary to what they thought was his beliefs, they would ask him, hold on a second. And very often the rabbi would explain that perhaps the student misunderstood something, right?
Kind of a way of learning.
Correct. It was a way of learning because the masters were meant to be that way. The masters were meant to be, their actions were meant to align with their opinions in Torah. Especially, we hold the Torah's godly message, godly instruction. So if you believe that this is God's instruction, you better be doing it. And if you're not doing it, it's a problem. And that's why it was not the only time where you see in the Talmud where rabbis were literally asking questions, or a student was asking a teacher a question based on their actions. And they expected an answer. As you can see here, where Rava is giving him answers to each and everything individually, right? This is the answer to this. This is the answer to this. And he was basically, yeah. As a matter of fact, there's a story in the Talmud. You might like this story. There's a story in the Talmud where there was a student who wanted to see what is the proper way to have relations with his wife. So what did he do? He went to his master's room. He hid under the bed. So that his master doesn't know he's there. And he waited for his master, his teacher, to come and have relations with his wife. And there's a whole story that his teacher came in, and his teacher was joking around with his wife, and then was with her, and then the student, I guess maybe in awe, he's like, my teacher sounds like he's never had relations in his life. Meaning, in other ways, I think he said something like he's thirsty, as if he was walking in the desert for whatever. I don't remember the terminology was used, but he was basically suggesting, like, kind of asking his teacher. He was in middle of his teacher having relations with his wife. He's asking his teacher, hold on a second. It sounds like, you're having fun, you're enjoying it. This is like a physical enjoyment, etc. And the teacher actually knew exactly who it was and said his name. He says, I think you went a little too far. This is not something you should do. And you should go out, and kick them out of the room. And later he explained to him that no, there's a part of the commandment is to misameach your wife, which means to give your wife enjoyment and pleasure and make her happy, right? And therefore it's a mitzvah to make a positive experience out of it. And therefore he said, that's what I was doing, right? It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I was just like, I was having fun in the bedroom. No, I was doing a godly commandment, which is to not just satisfy, but to make her happy, to make his wife happy. And therefore he did whatever he felt would make her as happy as he could, right? He wanted to make her as happy as possible. And that's why he did it, right? Not because he was just a person that was all into his physical pleasures. Anyways, so that is pretty much an explanation of this back and forth story where you have Rabbi Yaakov Bar Abba comes to Rav's house and is constantly asking him questions because it is a form of education. And by the way, as a teacher, it's a tremendous responsibility. If you're a teacher, a Torah scholar, you have to make sure that whatever you teach, and as they say in America, you practice what you teach, practice what you preach. You got to do that. If you don't practice what you preach as a Talmudic scholar, yeah. Anyone else? I think that would be the end of today's Talmudic session, and we hope you join us again tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem, Wednesday, 11 o'clock Israel time. We'll see you. If you didn't subscribe yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Do it already. Let's go. What's going on?
Thank you.